Well, happy Saturday night. The clock on the wall shows closer to 8:30, but my computer says 8:28. So I'm just getting on, gonna check my lighting and those kinds of things. And then I'm gonna do a little art. And hopefully you can catch me live or catch me on replay. I'm gonna move it just a little closer to my body because I know I'm going to naturally work closer to my body. I'm just watching my camera to see how the view is. Oh, I don't want to hear myself talk though, so let's hit mute on that. Better. I think I can come up just a little bit, so bear with me, guys, if you're live or watching on replay. There's a fine balance. I don't want to get too far away because my voice will get muffled. Let's try that. Okay. Hi, Chris. Now it looks like I might be a little crooked. All right. Yeah, okay. Well, hello. So let's do a quick review. I'm going over how I make some art. Hi, CJ. And the first step that I did, and I usually have a good supply, but I'd really run out of a lot of my papers. But using the jelly print and some stencils and some paint, I made a variety of paper, which I'll use it for flowers and different things along the way. So I went through the pile and kind of put some on top that I think will be good colors for what I'm going to do tonight. And then after we made the papers, I showed how to take a white blank canvas and how to put some texture and dimension on it. Now, since I did that, 2 nights ago, this changed just a little bit because there was a little lump there and I went to move it off and it peeled the whole little spot off. So I dug in the garbage where I had thrown away the leftover paint and the leftover gel medium, and then I painted right here over that spot. And so it's kind of a cool little mark. Hello, Sandy. Now, this particular set of canvases that I bought, I think I had to buy them in a 6-pack. I bought 6 of them because I had one 8x8 frame that I wanted to use. So that's just how it goes. Hi, Dawn. And I'm just doing a little review here, how we've gotten up to this point. But it's kind of saggy, so I put a few things underneath here just to give me a little bit better working surface. So if you find that, just tuck some things underneath there to give you a little flatter, firmer work surface. Okay. So then the next thing we're going to do is to put a focal point, something that's going to be the star of the show on this canvas. And so I always go out looking for pictures, try to make it free. If I'm going to use somebody else's art, I use multiple pieces of art, not just copying one thing. I'm using different pieces as inspiration, making sure if I'm going to do something identical to another artist, then I need to give them credit and I need to not sell it. If I'm going to take 6 or 7 different pieces of inspiration, nobody is original, right? We've all learned from other people. So then I don't worry about it. And it's then a combination and it's my art. So normally what I would do here, it's a variety of different ways to start my image. And I thought I'd do kind of a really easy way for tonight. So I found this piece and I just took a snippet. This was one huge painting, multiple flowers, and they all had like words written on the stems. That's not what I wanted. I wanted this dragonfly in kind of this direction with all 4 wings, both sides of wings open, and coming at something, right? Not just flying solo. So I'm going to put some kind of flower. I don't know that it'll be that flower, but it'll be some kind of flower. Hello, Lynn. Hello, Joni. So to do it really, so one way you could do it is put tracing paper underneath here and just trace your images that you wanted. That's an easy way. If you don't have tracing paper, you color it with either like a crayon or graphite pencil on the back and then trace it. But because what I really want is this paper to take those places, I'm going to cut the wings out real quick, okay? And then I'm going to trace them onto my pretty paper. So I'm just going to get my wings. And that way I don't have to try multiple times tearing it and shaping it, which I don't mind doing that either. This is not going to be perfect, you understand. It's just going to give me a running start. There's one little wing. I'm going to set that off to the side. And rarely do I print my inspiration. I usually have it on the computer and just look at it. But I wanted to get an image that I could put on Facebook to show you guys that's my next step. Go out looking. What's my inspiration? And then sometimes I draw it on. There's a painting on my Bev Hill Art that I actually drew it with an eyedropper and black ink. So it makes you stay really loose. And and even like this, I have no expectation how this needs to turn out. Right? It's not, my goal is it's not gonna look like this picture. This was just purely inspiration, a good starting point. Okay, and I'm going to cut a blob of the flower out, not to do this flower, but to give me an idea of the size of what I want. So again, this is a little different than how I've done it before. I have traced before. I did a class with Dina Wakely, and we used free clip art of birds, and we did just a real loose trace, and then we painted over top of that trace. We did not use collage paper. It was purely paint. Oh, here I'm cutting this out. I love to fussy cut. So I'm cutting out, and I was going to do a blob. Well, the fussy cutter in me takes over. All right. I'm going to get those scraps out of the way, and I'll get the body. Not that I need the body to be exact, because I'm not going to go that detail, but it'll give me an idea of length, right? It'll give me an idea of length. Now, you could certainly just glue these papers down that I did on the computer printout and then paint on top of them, and it would still be your art. But I did make these jelly prints, so I'm going to use them. And even how I end up laying them on my canvas is going to end up being a little different. So I'm going to throw the rest of this away, because my intent is not to do a bunch more little dragonflies. And same thing here. If I put another flower, it's gonna be organic. I don't know how or when. Right? Okay. So this gives me an idea, and I've got a water-soluble pencil. So I'm just going to give myself. I want it in the corner. I'm not going to do a big stem here because it's just not that big of a canvas. So this just gives me an idea of size, of how big I want that flower to be here, okay? And I want the flower on first because I'm gonna glue my dragonfly somewhere up in here, and probably in this pretty dark area. Make sense? Okay, so let's start by, I'm gonna paint some yellow, and then I'm gonna put some yellow collage paper on top. So I'm just gonna squirt right onto here because I really have no intent, no idea of where this is going to go. So I'm just going to give myself some feels of some petals. I want some to be coming off my edge here. I'm liking that. I'm going to put something else in here, so I'm not really worried about that. Okay, and while it's still a little wet, Let's see if I can get some of this gold in there. It's not really showing up. And it's amazing what will happen once paint dries. So be patient with it. But I need to start with this to get it drying. Ooh, see, look at that little accident. Just made a nice little gold edge. See if I can do that a couple more times. Pretty. Pretty. And not every petal is the same. Not every flower is the same. It can be a little darker down here, a little lighter up here. We can go in and get fancy with some white paint later and give it some sunshine or some highlights. Okay, I need to clean this brush for a minute. And now I'm going to find some yellow papers. This is a little darker. I'm going to see if I can find something yellower, a little lighter. And that's just going to depend, what did I grab for paint? That's some interesting. I'm going to tear some of this, okay? I'm just going to tear some pieces in kind of a petal shape. I'm just making a pile. But you would be amazed at what interest you can add. Look at that, just adding a little bit of a, isn't that something? I'm not going to go real in depth over here because I know some of it's going to be covered up with my dragonfly. Did I say butterfly earlier? But isn't that amazing how it looks so artsy, like you did so much work? And we're just letting, let's see, it's kind of tiny. Just right there. And these may get glued down someplace else. I just get a start to give me an idea of how many I need to tear. I even like these dark pieces down here. I think those are really fun. So what if I kind of use that down there where it might be a little darker? And you see in this particular, making jelly prints, let's see, where do I want another dark one? Maybe I'll put that guy up here. Maybe I'll make two dark ones down here. All right, so I think I have enough torn that I could start gluing. And then if it looks bare in some places, we can always get a few more. All right, so I'm going to start gluing these. And I've got a paper plate that I used earlier. And I'm really low on that soft gel that I like. So I found this is Liquitex Satin Medium. So it's a much more fluid glue. And this is thin paper. So we don't need a lot of glue. And I'm just going to use that same dirty, whoops. It's got a little yellow on it, which will be just fine as well. So I'm going to paint under and then lay my piece of paper down and paint over. Just like that, and let this start to meld into that base of paint. And I'm just going to tear that edge there. So I made it just a little straighter. I'll scooch it back down, just so I don't have paper hanging real far over the edge of my canvas. So just make sure you've got glue underneath and then on top. I also have, this is called a shaper. So it's just kind of like a spatula. You could use a credit card. you know, one of those Ranger tools. And I just make sure that I've gotten all the bubbles out of it. And I did not let this completely dry, so I'm picking up some of the yellow. I'm going to round that edge just a little bit more. Some of the yellow went a little further beyond where I wanted it to go, so I just wiped it off. Again, I don't worry about being completely symmetrical because when we go look at flowers, none of them are perfectly symmetrical, right? They're all different. Just want to make sure you've got a good amount of glue under and then over. I just like that paper, so I wanted to be sure and use it. And we can come back with details on top later to kind of bring it all together. Okay, so I need to get my shaper out again. Because this has got glue, I want to be sure and get that in some water. Just making sure it's all making good contact so it doesn't have a bunch of bubbles later as it dries. Okay. And then we're going to let it take its process, drying process. So I'm going to look for some brown, so I can put some kind of a center in there. Let me move my glue out of the way. I'm going to save my scraps. It's amazing. I get to the end and go, oh, I wish I had one more piece of that paper. So I wait till I'm all done to throw it away. Okay. I like this brown. It might take me a couple of times to tear it to the right size because I really have no idea even where I want to go. Not perfectly round, that's for sure. Let's start there. Well, gosh, I like that. What do you think? I like it. So see, just painting paint on a canvas straight on, you're not going to get the interest, right, of what that jelly print did. So I like that, and I'm going to glue it right down. But I just put my brush in water, and I don't want a bunch of water to mix in with the glue, and it's already very fluid. So I'm kind of drying off my brush. I'm going to go grab some of that glue. And I want to make sure, I don't know my shape of my oval, how it's going to lay down there. So I'm going to get a good amount. Come back around. Okay. That's looking good. So now let me find that little shaper thing. It's got yellow on it, so I'm going to clean that off first, so I don't scrape a bunch of yellow. So basically what I did is I put a base of color of where I want it to go, selected my, this is getting a little goopy, so I'm just going to pick it up with my towel. Highly technical art terms. Added my pretty collage paper, which does so much more in detail than I can do with the human hand and just paint. So I'm gonna let that dry for a minute, look up, see how you guys are doing tonight. And then I'm gonna start finding my dragonfly papers, and we'll add this little guy here and then some more details. So, happy Saturday night. Thanks for coming live with me. Before we put this guy down, we'll decide if that's too dark and too much of a distraction to what we have going on. How is the internet holding up? Am I freezing up again tonight? I made sure before I came on that my phone setting was to the Wi-Fi, that my volume was at the top volume, and I'm watching along. I just saw once where it did a little pause or something. So I think that's on my laptop, but not on my phone. So hopefully that just is how yours is behaving tonight. Good, I'm glad. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to my next papers, and for the inspiration, and always I like kind of that glittery teal. So I've got, this was one of my papers, but the only thing I'm concerned about, but it wouldn't be bad, is some of the, this has got a little transparency. This is rice paper. So when I glue it down, some of this blue could come through. But you know, if you have a transparent dragonfly wing, it would show through with what nature's got behind it too. So I think I still think I like this. So I think I'm going to work with this. And then I need something darker and greener for the dragonfly's body. All right. So let me set this off to dry. I'm going to, oh, that was what was holding it firm. Okay. So I'm going to lay this guy down. And these lines are going to even help me with some of my decoration in there. And I am not going to be exact. So I'm just going to do a rough trace. Is that showing up? Yeah. Okay, good. A rough trace. So when I'm tearing paper, I don't have to try to get this wing exact. Okay. And I think I'm going to do one at a time so I can rebuild the dragonfly. It is a canvas, Lynn. It sure is. It's 8 by 8 with a 1.5 thick edge to it. And the only reason that I worked with this set was because years ago, probably 5 to 7 years ago, I bought what they call a floating frame. That's going to tear. What if I just snip it and then I can cut better? I bought this expensive canvas. It's beautiful. It's kind of a beautiful finished walnut. And I wanted to put a painting in there because it's just been laying up against my wall for these years. Now, when I go to glue this down, it could tear, and I'm just going to have to get another piece of paper and glue it on top, which is going to be just fine. But here's my first dragonfly wing. Okay, so now I need my second one, which is right here. I'm going to see if I can get fancy and go to a little different. So this is my back wing. So I'm going to go here where it's got more teal and less of the gold, just to see if it can have a little bit different personality. If it doesn't, I'm not going to sweat it, but sometimes happy accidents happen. But you can see I'm not getting real hung up on the exact. And this has given me some time to let that flower dry, because we're going to be gluing this right on top of that flower. Somewhere. I'm not sure exactly the angle. We'll figure that out. Now the pencil that I traced with is a water soluble. It's called a Stabilo All pencil. And this piece doesn't have near the amount of gold, which is fine, kind of nice. When I go to put glue on this Stabilo All could blend in, could give it a little gray. And if I don't like it, I can just kind of daub it up. All right, here's my second wing. All right, I got 2 more to go. Okay, here's wing number 3. And that's going to be my front wing. So I'm going to get back into some of my gold. That looks pretty gold. So let's get that guy. I like that a lot. Sorry, I got to kind of hold it with my fingers here. It'll give us a rough shape. Looks like did I get that edge? Hang on a minute. I don't think I finished tracing. Okay. Okay. Oh, you might have seen my hair there. Sorry. Oh. There's no right or wrong way to do art. It's all an exploration. And I love what Dina Wakley says. She's one of my very favorite artists. And she says, do you know how you make good art? You make a lot of bad art. And that's very true. All right, so that's wing number 3. Here's my last wing. Where'd that go? Okay, my fingers are sticky. Hang on a second, I got a little snafu up here. Okay, last one. Again, this is a back wing, so I'm gonna go down where there's less gold. Maybe right in here. There's still a little gold, and there should be. Am I on camera? I think I am. Okay. This pencil doesn't want to draw on the shiny paint that's on there. But we made it work. So I really like to paint on canvas board because it's got a firm surface. They're very affordable. They're not real popular in the selling art world unless you pay for frames. And that's a gamble, right? That's a gamble. Wood panels are nice too, and you can paint those outside edges. Okay, here's my last wing. Let go. There we go. All right, again, I'm not going to completely get rid of it because I'm probably going to have to tear some more just to fix whatever boo-boos happen. All right, so I want a dark, you know, that's kind of a cool thing in the middle. I think that's going to be my body right there. Isn't that funny? It's kind of the ugly piece of this. This is all beautiful, but that's a nice piece for this guy. Don't you think? Let's do that. Got some green in it, it's got some gold specks, and it's much darker. So this just gives me an idea of shape, dimensions. Mine's not going to look anything like this, trust me. Okay, now I'm going to cut that blob out. And if I like to tear paper, but for tonight and for this, you know, just little show you the steps of what I do to get started. And then, quite honestly, art, it has a mind of its own, and it will start to take its own shape. It's kind of weird what's going on here. I don't care. Good enough. Let's see if I can go in and go in a little bit more. Yeah. All right, so there's my little dragonfly body. I think it'll have enough contrast between the colors. All right, let's glue this baby on. That's drying pretty good. Okay, so now I have absolutely no recollection of how my butterfly was flying. So I'm going to just start laying these on and see where it's going to live. That's got a little weird, I'm gonna have to snip that a little bit. Or get them closer and then put the body on top of those. All right, you see it? So, I wonder if I move it down a little bit. I'm just thinking if this green can get onto the lighter blue. I kind of like that. So you can see that dragonfly a little better. So I'm just going to start. I'm going to start gluing these wings down, and then I'll put the body on afterward. Okay. I need more glue because that flower took most of everything I had. And I'm going to go to a clean brush. And maybe a little softer because that's very delicate paper. All right, so I'm going to put some glue on this back. All right. See if I can pick it up. Whoops, I just blew the other one away. And then once you start laying it down, you just kind of have to take it as it comes. You don't want to pick it up and replace it too many times. All right, here's the one I just blew off. Be careful not to lay it down in the glue I just overlapped onto my canvas. I'm gonna have to set my, can't remember, I think it goes this way. That way? No, this way. There we go. And a little closer to that wing. And now I'm gluing my fingers to it. There we go. Okay, so let's see if I can move that a little bit. Get rid of my wrinkles. There we go. Wants to wrinkle. So I'm going to start moving it with my glue. And I can always come back and do some line work, marry it together a little bit better, but most important right now is let's just get it glued to the canvas. Okay, here's this pretty guy. So I'm going to get them kind of close together so I can put that body right on top. So I'm tired of messing around with the backs. I'm just going to give me a big blob of glue here. And I'm kind of washing away that pencil outline. See that gray kind of over there? That's going to be just fine. All right, let's put another, I'm going to get some of that gray off of my brush. Another blob of glue. Okay. Oops. Their wings are pretty close together, the front and the back, so that's what I'm going to do. And again, I'm going to kind of clean off some of those edges. All right, and now that they're on, I'm going to come and kind of daub off that extra. Now we got this guy. This is a much more sturdy piece of paper. I think I want the head a little closer to the wings and then the body there. So that's where I would like to place it, but of course, who knows where exactly it's going to land. I'm just going to give myself a nice amount of glue to catch that paper. And because this is a heavier paper, I want to have a good amount of glue so that it will catch it and stick. So we're going to come back with paint Oh, look at, see, that's rubbing away. Come back here. So that's what I mean. If I ruin it, I'll have to come back and tear another piece of paper and add it there. So I'm just pressing down to make sure it's all made good contact. Got some wrinkles there, but that just looks to me like kind of like a wing. And anytime you're dealing with glue and your brushes, as soon as you're done, get that brush in some water. I have ruined many a brush. All right, so you can kind of see what we've got going there. So I think I want to add a little bit more yellow to brighten it up. I love these little squirrely things that I did before we painted over top. So there might be a little flower here. Let's just get some yellow. I'm gonna see if I have any more of that paper. Shake it up good. Oh, that's way too much, but that's okay. That's okay. And then I'm gonna get some of this shiny gold. Okay, and this is starting to dry, so I could start to do some line work here. See how it starts to pull it all together? I don't want anything to be real linear, right? Like I'm trying to draw a perfect flower. So it's gonna have a real mixed media kind of a feel to it. So if I bring that up close, you can kind of see what I did there. And it just starts to marry all the pieces that we've started with. Kind of want some of those lines coming up through the middle. Yeah, that's good. That's good enough for me. All right, I've got this other paint setting out, so let's do something with that. I'm gonna dry off my brush. It's been sitting in the water. And I'm gonna mix it with some of this glue that I have, make it a little bit more translucent. I think I'm just gonna do a few yellow blobs. Maybe a few over here. Just happy yellow. And it's pretty wet, but I made it translucent so it's not, you know, such a solid yellow. You can see some of the blue underneath, which when you have petals on flowers. So let's just see if we can get some gold, some shimmer there where maybe the sun's hitting it. Do the same thing over here. So these are very abstract, but your eye will finish filling in. I need some more gold paint. And I'm letting my dragonfly dry before I go in and start adding any more detail to him or her. Just add a little sunshine. See, I'm just barely daubing my brush, and I'm letting the brush stroke be the detail. It's doing the work for me. So for these, I probably would not add any collage paper. I want them to stay in the background of the painting and let these two guys be the stars of the show. Okay? All right. So I am feeling like I want to add a little detail in the center of this. So I've got this acrylic ink that is antelope brown, which I'm not sure if it's going to work, but we're going to go for it. This is kind of a greeny brown. So I'm just using this eyedropper. Just, oh, squeeze too much. Do you know what happens when you know what you say when that happens? Oops, oh, well. So if I had a tissue, I might try to daub it, but I'm going to see if I can take just the tad edge of that and just soak up some of what. And then I'm just going to have to let that be and let it dry however it's going to dry. Because I'm going to put some splatter on it too and different things. And that's part of art. You gotta let it go. Okay, now I also want to put in some branches here. And I don't know that I grabbed a nice green. So I want a darker green, quite honestly. So give me 1 second here. I know I have one, so I'm just gonna, oh, I've got this. This is Olive. That should be okay. This is a Dina Wakley paint. It's called Olive. I would like to just draw them on, but I think that would be a little too bold for what I want it to be in the background. So I'm going to look for a smaller brush. Let's see if this guy would work. Oh, this guy just jumped out. He might be a little too wispy. I'm going to start with this guy. So I'm going to get some of my glue, mix it into my olive paint. I'm going to go in and be flexible with myself. But you know what else I'm going to add? I'm going to put a drop of my antelope brown in case I just might want to add a little bit of brown to that. That's pretty. All right, so I'm going to come up into that yellow. Not enough. Let's see, into that yellow. There we go. Up in there like that. Like the stem is, like it's growing into that. And the further away you get, the less detail you would see. So I just go a little lighter. And I'm not thrilled with this paintbrush. I'm not sure this is the one. So now I'm going to hold way back to the end of this paintbrush to make myself stay as loose as I can. And I'm not even going to worry about finishing my stems. Just a hint that that's what's going on. Your eyes will finish it. And then maybe just a few little leaves. Don't be afraid to paint on top of something you've already painted. That's probably as much detail as I want there. So let's do the same thing on these guys down here. They're pretty close together, so I'm not going to do a lot of detail. Just barely daubing at the bottom of these. So if you saw my inspiration, it just gives me a starting point. I'm going to try, I just don't really like that brush. I'm going to try this wispy, and it might be too wispy. But I'm just going to see if I can get, yeah, I like that. I'm just kind of laying my brush down and then swooping it down. That would have been a better brush for the other ones, but you know what? Oops, oh well. Now, what I can do to kind of marry it is I could throw a few more just wispy lines. That's probably all I do. And I think it's dry enough. The last action that I take on these is I'll probably use this little brush, and you need some white to give it that highlight. I'm gonna get a little white out of this big old container. Okay, again, I'm gonna take some of my glue, because why not? I've got it sitting there. Okay, I better put my reading glasses back on here. I'm just gonna lay it down a couple places. See how that kind of brightens it up? Come on along, kind of along the edge where the sun might be hitting it. I'm just making this up as I go. But I did do abstract flowers years ago in a class with Dina. And one of the things we learned was highlights and shadows. And I may not do it exactly the same, but I've carried it with me. So see how that gives it a little bit of interest? Okay. So now I think I'm going to take my gold writer and let's see what we can do with drawing some details on this guy. So they've got big eyes right to the side. I should look at a picture. And then I think they had kind of like these little things to each side. I'm gonna have to turn so I don't put my arm right into the wet paint. I'm just giving little lines kind of in between this. Nothing precise. And then I'm going to give him an outline. And if it runs together, oops, oh well. Okay, so let's go ahead and outline our beautiful wings. Okay, I got to be careful of my hand. You might not be able to see, but I'm trying not to drag it into the wet paint. I will share with you that one of the biggest mistakes I make is not letting things dry in between. That's when I've made some of the biggest boo-boos. Thank you, Rose. Okay, so I would probably let this dry a little bit, and then I would go in, so I'm not dragging my arm into things, and put my details, right? My little lines. So you get the idea, right? So I'm going to want to come in and do that. And then I got to look on a picture to see kind of where his antennas or what goes there, and finish him up. And then I'm going to do splatter, and I could probably do that right now. This is, I would say there's three levels of how fluid a paint is. You've got heavy body paint, which is going to be a Dina Wakley paint or golden heavy body. That's the thicker paints, and that's when you paint with a brush, it's thick enough you could see it. You could see the brush strokes, right? And then you've got a medium, which would be a Diane Reebley Dilutions paints, or this is a medium. Craft paints are mostly medium. You can get some thickers, but most craft paints are going to be a medium. This is a medium flow. And then you've got a very fluid paint, and you can use that paint kind of like this acrylic ink. It's about like that. So you can use that and make your own pens, you know, your own paint pens. It's going to be very fluid. You don't want to use a heavy body paint. And then you can buy these little fine tip little containers, and there's one called Fine Line. They're more expensive, so if you can find these kind, they're less expensive, and they do kind of clog up or dry up, so the less I can invest in them, the better. But this particular paint is called a Deep Gold, and this is by the company Golden. So it's a medium body, too thick and it's not going to squeeze out, but I absolutely love what it does. All right, so I think I want gold splatter. So I'm going to see if I can find a spot here. Throw some of my gold paint on there. I have no idea what brush is going to be good for this that I have, but you want some water. So I've just made kind of a little pool of paint, and I'm going to see if I can get my splatter. Yeah. And I just think that kind of helps marry everything together. I like a good splatter. And it kind of hides some things, right? That maybe didn't turn out so well. But I can overdo a splatter, so I'm not going to go overboard. But there's an idea. And I probably will come in and maybe see if I have an acrylic ink that's teal or that aqua color, and see if I can paint on top of here and maybe make it pop out a little bit more. But I'll come back with some pictures or maybe a video and show you maybe what my final thoughts are after I let this dry, so I don't do what I've done so many times, which is smudge it. So for example, right here I'm sitting going, that one's kind of dark, so I might cheat and take some of this lighter paint and lay it right on top just to tone that down a little bit. So you kind of want to go back and take a look. You can even take a picture of it and just say, what's distracting? Because if I sat here looking at it, I might not even notice that maybe this blue right here is really taking away from the picture, and maybe not. So take a step back, go to bed, wake up the next day, see how it dried up, and then make your finishing touches. And then don't forget, always sign your paintings. That is a wrap for me tonight. I hope you enjoyed the process, and you try your own hand at painting, because as you can see, it's not high tech, right? It's starting with things that can help you with the dimensions, and then just kind of experimenting. Thanks, Dawn. All right, guys, have a wonderful rest of your evening. I probably won't do another live class on how I finish it, but I will come live and talk through whatever I end up deciding to do to finish off my little dragonfly. Because I do want to make him a little bit more bold, or I don't know, that it stands away from that blue. So I'll figure it out. I might add a little purple in there, because don't you see purple sometimes in butterflies? So I might add some purple. All right, guys. Hello, Connie, and goodbye, all. Thank you, Lynn. Talk to you later.